Hey everyone! Have you ever heard of a kingdom that was built right into the cliffs of the desert? Not just any kingdom, but one that turned dry, rocky land into a rich and powerful place. That's exactly what the Nabataeans did in a region we now call Jordan. Their most famous city was Petra, a breathtaking place carved out of red rock. It looked like it grew right out of the cliffs. By around 312 BCE, Petra was already a well-known and wealthy city. In fact, a Greek general named Antigonus even sent his son to try to attack it, but the Nabataeans were smart and ready. They defended their city and sent the attackers packing. A few decades later, around 168 BCE, they had their first known king, and from there, their kingdom really took off. They ruled until 106 CE, when the mighty Roman Empire moved in and took over their land. The Nabataeans started out as nomads. That means they didn't live in one place but moved from place to place, especially around the Negev desert. Life in the desert wasn't easy, but the Nabataeans were clever. They figured out how to use the land to their advantage. They became rich by trading goods like spices, frankincense, and myrrh along trade paths called the incense routes. These weren't short trips. The routes stretched about 1,200 miles from Yemen all the way to the Mediterranean Sea. That's like walking from one end of a country to another. The Nabataeans knew these paths better than anyone. They discovered how to store rainwater in hidden places like underground tanks, which they covered and marked with secret signs only they could recognize. This meant they could travel faster and safer than other traders who had to stop and search for water. With all the money they made from trading, they started building. And what they built was amazing. Petra wasn't just a city, it was a fortress, a marketplace, and a masterpiece. You might wonder why anyone would build a city in such a dry, hidden spot, far away from rivers or farmland. But that was the smart part. Because it was hidden and hard to get to, Petra was protected from enemies. And because it sat right where many trade routes crossed, the Nabataeans could keep an eye on who passed through and charge them fees, which made them even richer. They didn't stop there. They also built an advanced system of canals, dams, and water tanks. This let them control flash floods and store enough water to turn the dry area into a green oasis. Petra became a strong, thriving city in the middle of the desert. But good times didn't last forever. In 106 CE, the Romans came in and took control of the Nabataean kingdom. Slowly, trade started to shift to other cities, like Palmyra, which became the new hotspot for merchants. Nabataean cities like Petra began to fade in importance. Even when the Romans later destroyed Palmyra, it was too late to bring Petra back to power. By the time Arab armies came through in the 600 CE, the Nabataeans had become just a memory. What made the Nabataeans truly unique wasn't just their beautiful cities or clever trading skills. It was their way of life. They loved freedom and didn't live like other people. They avoided farming or building fancy homes, because they believed owning too much made you easier to control. Instead, they raised camels and sheep, lived out in the open, and moved around. When danger came, they could vanish into the desert, relying on their hidden water supplies to survive. Their way of living helped them stay safe and strong for many years. Writers from ancient times were fascinated by them. One writer, Diodorus, said they lived outdoors, drank wild honey mixed with water, and were very serious about their customs. If someone broke their rules, they could even face the death penalty. Another writer, Strabo, gave a slightly different picture. He said the Nabataeans did grow grapes and made wine, but they didn't drink too much. They believed in balance. He even said that during big dinners, their king would personally serve food and drinks to the guests instead of acting like a bossy ruler. That's how much they valued fairness and kindness. And here's something really cool. Nabataean women had important roles in society. Unlike in many ancient cultures where women had very few rights, Nabataean women could be leaders, judges, and even queens. They could own land, appear in court, and their names were even found on coins. Some of their most powerful gods were goddesses like Al-Uzza, Manawat, and Alai. This shows how much respect and power women had in their culture. and their religion was just as interesting as their amazing cities. The Nabataeans believed in many gods and thought the sun was special. They held religious events on top of their temples and also did smaller rituals at home with their families. Both men and women could be priests, but we don't really know how they were chosen or what kind of training they had. Unlike other ancient groups who made big statues of their gods, the Nabataeans showed their gods in small carvings on doorways, coins, pottery, and jewelry. Some of their most important gods were Al-Qam, who protected people at night and was a god of war, Al-Qutbi, the god of writing and predicting the future, and Al-Uzza, the powerful mother goddess. Later on, they also worshipped Manawat, the goddess of fate and fertility, Alat, the goddess of spring and new life, and Dushara, the god of the mountains and daylight. Dushara was so important that he was still shown on coins even after the Romans took over. The history of their kings is a mix of stories and facts. The city we now call Petra was once called Rakhmu, maybe named after an early king named Rechem. The first king we know for sure was Aretas I, who ruled around 168 BCE. He helped the Maccabees in their fight against the Greeks. After him came Aretas II and Obotus I, who defended their lands and beat enemy armies. People respected Obotus I so much that they treated him like a god after he died. Aretas III made the kingdom even bigger. He controlled trade from Syria down through Arabia. In 64 BCE, when the Roman general Pompey came to conquer, the Nabataeans managed to keep most of their freedom by agreeing to pay tribute. Later kings like Malichus Athi and Obotus III had to deal with Roman pressure. They used both smart negotiations and tricks, like sending a clever official named Silius to mislead the Romans. He acted like a friend, but secretly led them off course. The best-known king was Aretas IV, who ruled from around 9 BCE to 40 CE. People loved him, and he was called Aretas, king of the Nabataeans, lover of his people. During his time, art, law, and women's rights all grew stronger. His wife, Choldu, was also a powerful leader, and together they helped Nabatean culture reach its peak, even as Rome kept growing. After Aretas IV, kings like Malichus II and Rabel II tried to hold on, but Rome became too strong. In 106 CE, the Nabatean kingdom officially became part of the Roman Empire. Later, big earthquakes in the years 363 and 551 CE badly damaged their cities. By the time Arab armies passed through in the 600 CE, those cities were mostly empty. It wasn't until the 1800s that explorers from Europe found Petra again and learned about the Nabataeans. Since then, archaeologists have studied the area and found more of their history. Petra was named a World Heritage Site in 1985 and became one of the new 7 wonders of the world in 2007. The Nabataeans might have disappeared, but their amazing stone cities and smart way of life are still remembered today.